We have studied uncertainty principle in lower classes. We are deriving this uncertainty principle here based on the wave concept and the particle, later on the particle concept. So we have the uncertainty principle 1, where we derive the uncertainty principle using the wave concept of, or the matter waves associated with moving particles. So using that idea. Then we will derive this, or we will have the same relation, same uncertainty principle by considering the particle aspect of the matter. And that is uncertainty principle 2 that we say it is uncertainty principle 2. Actually both are same. Uncertainty principle 1 here, that we obtain, uncertainty principle we obtain using the wave concept, and later in the section uncertainty principle 2, there we will derive the uncertainty principle, or we will obtain a relation for the uncertainty principle using the particle concept. Okay, so here we know in this chapter we have been seeing there's a wave associated with the moving particle, and it is represented by a wave group. So that is shown here. We have a particle moving, and this is the isolated wave group representing that particle. Now the particle that corresponds to this wave group, that may be located anywhere within the group at a given time. Okay, so this is the wave group in a region, in a particular region, specified region, there is wave, and outside that specified region the wave function is 0. So the region where the wave function is not 0, the particle, there is a probability for finding the particle. So the particle corresponding to this wave group, that may be anywhere within this wave group. Okay. So it can be found anywhere where modulus of psi square, that is the probability, that is not equal to 0. It is maximum in the middle of the group. Okay, it's maximum in the middle of the group, and it decreases towards the ends of the wave group. Okay, as we move towards or go towards the ends, it decreases because the amplitude of the wave, that is decreasing. Now the narrower the wave group, suppose that our wave group is very narrow, then more precisely we can specify the position of the particle. So this is a very narrow wave group. It is something like a small pulse. So the wave function is non-zero in a very narrow region. So we can accurately specify the particle's position. Okay. So the problem here is now the wavelength, the particle's position can be very accurately, almost precisely determined, but the wavelength of the wave packet is now not well defined. Why we say like that? Because there are not enough waves to measure lambda accurately. So suppose I want to measure lambda, there isn't enough waves to measure the lambda accurately. Okay. So this means that the momentum is related with the de Broglie wavelength lambda by lambda equal to h by p, or p equal to h by lambda. So the precise momentum or the particle's momentum, that cannot be precisely determined because lambda is not well defined. Okay, if we make a series of we know lambda measurements, okay, if we make a series of lambda measurements, we will be getting different values because it is not well defined. So correspondingly, we will have a series of momentum values. So each time we measure the lambda, we will be getting a different value, and we will be having a different momentum values. Okay. So this is the case for a narrow wave group. Okay, a narrow wave group, this one, like this. Its position almost precisely determined. So delta x small, but the wavelength and corresponding momentum, that is not well defined. So uncertainty momentum is very large. Now let's take a wide wave group like this. Okay, this is a wide wave group. Here the particle's position, the width of the wave group is very large, so we cannot say exactly where the particle is at a given time. Okay, we cannot say. If we make the position measurements, we will see it at different points in the wave group. Okay, so the particle's position cannot be exactly specified, but here a wide wave group means a very clearly defined wavelength. You can clearly, almost precisely determine the wavelength. Okay, so the momentum that corresponds to this wavelength is therefore a very precise quantity. Okay, so the momentum, that is related with the wavelength. Since wavelength is a well-defined quantity here, momentum will be a well-defined quantity, or it can be precisely determined. So if we make a series of momentum wavelength measurements or momentum measurements, that will give a narrow range of values. That means the delta p is small. Okay, delta p, that is uncertainty in the momentum, the range of values that we get, that will be very small, but delta x is very large because you have a broad range of x values. Thus we have the uncertainty principle. By comparing this narrow wave group, or this short narrow wave group, and the wide wave group here. In the narrow wave group, delta x is small, but delta p is large. And when it comes to wide wave group, delta x is large. Okay, particle can be found anywhere within that group in a large range. So delta x is large, but delta p is small. The momentum is almost precisely defined, so delta p is small. Okay, so we have the uncertainty principle. It is impossible to know both the exact position and momentum of an object at the same time. So it is impossible to know both the exact position and momentum of an object at the same time. Okay, if you precisely determine the position, the wave group is narrow one, the momentum is, that is not a well-defined quantity, it will have a broad range of values. But if the momentum is clearly, precisely determined or precisely defined, what happens is the particle's position, that will have a broad range of values. Delta x will be large. So we say it is impossible to know both the exact position and momentum of an object at the same time. Okay. Now we are going into the details of it, or we are going to have a relation for the uncertainty in position and uncertainty in the momentum. An isolated wave group, of arbitrary shape, that is the result of superposing an infinite number of waves with different frequencies, wave numbers and amplitudes as shown in figure. Okay, this we have seen. A wave group is formed by the combination of several waves of different or a range of frequencies, range of wavelengths, range of wave numbers and amplitudes as shown in the figure below. Okay, so that is shown clearly here. Here on the left hand side we have the wave group, and on the right hand side we are adding several waves. The plus sign, that means we are adding the waves of the different frequencies or wavelengths and amplitudes. So thus at a certain time t, the psi of x can be represented by a Fourier integral like this. Psi of x equal to integral 0 to infinity g of k cos kx dk. Okay, cos kx dk. K we know is the wave number related with the wavelength. The k varies from 0 to infinity. So the wavelengths inside the wave group that actually varies from 0 to infinity. So cos kx, that represents each of these waves. Okay, cos kx, the cosine function, or rather we can use sine function as well. That represents each of these waves, and k varies. That means the wavelengths varies. And here we said we superpose waves of different frequencies, wave numbers, and amplitudes as well. Okay, the amplitudes of the waves have to be properly adjusted to get the desired wave group. Okay, so here g of k describes the amplitude, how the amplitudes of the waves that contribute to psi of x vary with the wave number k. Okay, so this g of k determines how much each wave of particular wavelength is there in the wave function. Okay, and g of k is called the Fourier transform of psi of x. G of k specifies the wave group just as completely as psi of x does. Okay, so g of x, this is psi of x in equal to integral 0 to infinity g of k cos kx dk. So this is actually the Fourier integral. This is said to be the Fourier integral, and g of k is actually called the Fourier transform of psi of x. Okay, g of k represents the amplitudes of the waves, how much each wave is there in the wave group. So we can specify the wave group using g of k or psi of x. Okay, g of k actually specifies the wave group just as completely as psi of x. Okay, now once we have understood this concept that psi of x is a sum of the several waves, psi of x that represents the wave group, sum of several waves, and g of k is the corresponding amplitudes, how much each wave is there. Once we have understood that concept, we can move on to this. Here we see four graphs, four graphs for psi and corresponding four graphs for figures for g. Okay. So here, as I told here, g of k specifies the wave group just as completely psi of x. So we can represent wave group either by g of k or by psi of x. So we are representing the different wave groups by psi and g. We have four wave groups now. The first one, the narrow wave group. The first one, the A, figure A, that represents the narrow wave group, and psi is shown here, and g is shown below. Okay, see, we have the narrow wave group, and g, the corresponding Fourier transform, g is Fourier transform, which represents the wave that is shown here. So it is actually very wide, psi is very narrow. And the figure B, that shows two graphs corresponding to the psi, a wide wave group and a corresponding g. So for a wide wave group, the spread of G is small. Okay, spread of G is small. It's almost like a pulse, like here. And C, this is actually a wave, a single wave of a particular wavelength. And for that you see the G is a single line. That is, you have only single wave number in the single wave in the. And for the fourth one, the D, the psi is actually a Gaussian distribution, and the corresponding G is also a Gaussian distribution. So the wave function psi and the Fourier transform G of k for a pulse, for a wave group. Okay, A is for a pulse, B is for a wave group, C is for a wave train, D for a Gaussian distribution is shown here. Okay. Now, as the figure shows, narrower the wave group. Okay, narrower the wave group. And narrow wave group is the first one, the pulse. The broader the range of wave numbers needed to describe it. Broader the range of wave numbers needed to describe it. That is represented by the spread of G of k. Okay. So for a very narrow pulse, we need a broad G of k to represent the pulse. Okay, for a wide wave group, for example like this one, B, we need a very narrow range of k values, okay, to describe it. So the narrower the group, the broader the range of wave numbers needed to describe it, and vice versa. Okay. So the relationship between delta x and delta k. Delta x is the width of the wave group, okay, the wave group length, and delta k, the wave number spread. Okay, the wave number spread. Wave number spread is more. More for A. Okay, and it is minimum for C. Okay. Now, the relationship between delta x and delta k, that depends on the shape of the wave group. Okay, the minimum delta x, delta k is found to be always greater than or equal to half. The spread in x, the spread in psi, and the spread in k, the spread in G, that is delta x, delta k, that is found to be always greater than or equal to half. The minimum is observed for delta x, delta k is equal to half, which is for the Gaussian distribution, for the D. Okay, so for the minimum is obtained for delta x, delta k, the product, that is equal to half, which is for the Gaussian distribution. For other psi values, psi wave functions, this delta x, delta k is greater than half. Okay. So we have this relation delta x, delta k greater than or equal to half, the minimum for the Gaussian distribution. Now we know lambda is equal to h by p, and k is 2 pi by lambda. Wave number is 2 pi by lambda, and lambda is h by p, so that is equal to 2 pi p by h. So p is equal to hk by 2 pi, and this is very straightforward one. So delta p is h delta k by 2 pi. Okay, delta p, the spread in momentum, that is h by 2 pi, delta k, the spread in the wave number, or delta k. Okay, is delta p 2 pi by h delta k. Now here, from here we had seen that delta x, delta k is greater than or equal to half. Okay, so as we substitute for delta k, which is greater than or equal to 1 by 2 delta x, okay, we get here we are taking delta k is taken as 2 pi delta p over h. Okay, delta k is taken as 2 pi delta p over h. So that is given here. Okay, so as we substitute, we will get delta x delta p greater than or equal to h by 4 pi. Okay, delta x delta p greater than or equal to h by 4 pi, which is the uncertainty principle. Okay, and this equation states that the product of the uncertainty delta x in the position of an object at some instant and the uncertainty delta p in the momentum the x direction at the same instant. Okay, delta x uncertainty at some instant, delta p the uncertainty momentum at the same instant, that is greater than or equal to h by 4 pi. So this is our uncertainty relation, delta x delta p greater than or equal to h by 4 pi.